Guys, my friend Jerry has been telling me for a long time about this huge oak burl that he had. Come take a look. He said it's been sitting in the shop for quite a while, drying out. We finally met up on a job site and he gave it to me. And I got to looking at this monstrosity, trying to figure out how I was going to, first of all, I was super excited, but how I was going to attack this. Am I going to cut it? Am I going to cut it this way? It's huge. It's 18 inches long, almost 12 inches tall, 12 inches wide. But the more I look at it, the less I'm thinking it's actually a burl. If you look at this here, this was obviously a limb that either broke off or was cut off at some point, and the tree was trying to heal over it. And I got to looking closer, and it looks like the same thing has happened here. I think this was a limb that was cut off, and the tree was just trying to heal over it. And that's not the only problem. This is all super rotten. So in order to figure out how I want to go about this, I'm going to spend some time digging this out and seeing how far this rot goes, because if it goes up into this, I may just cut it in half to see what the heck's going on, because I won't be able to turn. If it's hollow in the middle, there's no way to make a bowl, really, unless maybe I might be able to cut it this way. I don't know. I'm going to do some exploring and see what I come up with. That's not a great sign. I think instead of making a giant mess here, I'm just going to take a chainsaw and rip it right through here. And then I might be able to get a bowl out of this side and maybe a small dish out of this other side, but I might get nothing. I might get some firewood. So let's rip it in half and see what we end up with. No bueno. First impressions, this is all rotten. I'll set it back on the lathe and poke around. Boy, that is so spongy. I wouldn't even have any way to mount this on the lathe. No bugs in it, it's just rotten. It's a sponge. Not even good firewood. There's just barely a shell of wood on the outside that's solid, which is a real bummer, because there's just nothing I can do with that. All right, well, moving on. Take two. Well, guys, I want to work on my office upstairs, but I'm waiting for drywall mud to dry, so This is from a giant stump of cherry that was given to me by another friend, Rob, oh, probably a year and a half ago. And I milled it down into some chunks that I thought I could turn later. So, and then I think the tree had been down for maybe 3 or 4 years before I even got it. So it's been down a long time, but it's been sitting outside. It's definitely not rotten. I don't know how dry it is. It should be seasoned. It might not be dry. A lot of cracks from you typically see from drying. But it's got some really neat, so this was a giant limb coming off of it, and this is a big swirl of interesting looking wood, and it's got some really neat stuff going on with the grain. It's also got this bark inclusion that could be a problem, but hey, we'll get it on the lathe and see what happens. I've already drilled a hole for a wood worm. Yep, she's gonna be pretty out of balance for a while. I have a feeling there could be something pretty neat hiding in here, but I guess we better just start turning. Good. I'm curious as to how this is gonna smell. I'll be honest, it doesn't smell great. It smells actually kind of bad. It's essentially a knot, and another knot, and then knot. It's tough. I've found when you try and make something round, instead of trying to work across the whole thing, it's much less fatiguing to just give yourself just take little steps and work your way across. And that way you can just keep your your palm planted and just kind of work in little increments instead of trying to slide and hold and tense up so bad that you're going to give yourself a bad medical condition. I can feel water flinging out at me out of this crack here. You can see it. I'm gonna keep turning this away. I have got chips all down my shirt. Ugh. Part of me wants to leave some of that, but I know that makes for a thick bowl, at least in that area. I think this wood is a lot wetter than I'm hoping that it is. Yeah, that is really, really damp. I might just round this off and then maybe set it aside to dry for a while indoors. Or maybe I'll hollow out the center a bit so that it can dry quicker. Probably crack to a million pieces. I'm worried that that one's a deep one. Well, I'm going to check on my drywall mud, and maybe I will be back. Maybe tomorrow. Well, guys, I've got a little bit of epoxy mixed up, left over from another project I'm working on that you may or may not have seen yet, but I thought, why not throw some in this crack, just to not waste. Easier said than done. I probably should have put some tape on here. Oopsies. Well, I'm hoping that gravity will pull this all down. I left kind of a hump in the tape over the crack, so I'm hoping gravity's just gonna do what it did over the rest of the bowl here and work that stuff down in. All right, guys, well, it's been a few days since I poured the epoxy, and while the epoxy is good and cured, I think some more cracks have shown up, possibly, which is the nature of the beast in wood that's got grain this crazy and all these defects. I don't know that this is going to be salvageable, especially with this bark inclusion, whatever is going on there. But I'm going to turn it down, maybe narrow up the base a bit and see if we can't make something out of it. I'm really hoping so. The grain looks just amazing, but anyway, I'm going to mask and face shield up and start cutting this thing down a little bit. There's some really neat stuff happening here. All this crazy grain, but then you get up into this huge bark inclusion, and I just know that that's not going to stay. Part of me wants to take this bowl down and maybe just have half of this, and this would end up being a big hole in the side of the lip of the bowl, but I don't know if anything else is going to become of this. I think I might turn it around, start hollowing it out, and see what happens here. It might just completely come apart, I don't know. All right, well, I got her turned around. Normally you would sand and finish the outside before turning it around, but I don't want to put all the time and effort into something that might not turn it into anything. So I will sand this later if I can get this side of it to cooperate. This piece of bark is coming loose. I'm probably going to lose it, but I think just for giggles, I'm going to throw a bunch of thick CA glue and see if we can't salvage that. That would be kind of neat to have that stay there. So I'm going to put an obnoxious amount of CA glue and see what happens. If you're not familiar with what CA glue is, it's basically super glue. It has an activator that causes it to cure instantly, except for this thicker formula. It doesn't, the surface will cure, but it takes a while for the the core of it to cure. So I'll probably let this sit for a little while. All right, well, I'm going to let that sit for a while, 20, 30 minutes, and come back, and then I'll trim that off. It's already nice. It's already quite a bit more solid, but we'll just let that go ahead and cure. Otherwise, I've spun the lathe before this stuff completely cured, and I end up with spider webs of that glue everywhere, and we'll just give her a little time. All right, well, it's actually been a couple hours. I took care of some other things. This stuff is pretty much feeling like epoxy, so I'm going to keep turning the inside and see what happens. You would think I was carving epoxy with all these stringers. Well, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm kind of surprised that this bowl has stayed together for as long as it has. I think this wood's pretty wet, so it might not stay together for long. It might start cracking once it starts drying, but for now it looks pretty cool. All right, guys, I think I'm going to give this a couple of days to sit here and dry out a little bit. I just want to make sure it's just not going to warp into a pretzel and blow up into a million pieces. I knew this piece was wet when I put it on, but I wanted to turn some wood, you know? So anyway, I'm going to let this sit for a couple of days. We'll come back and see what happens. Right now it's nice and true, and I have a feeling in a couple of days it's going to be all wobbly, so we'll be back. All right, guys, well, it's been 2 days. And much to my surprise, this thing is still real true. It didn't warp out like I was expecting it to. So I think there's some hope here. I'm gonna take some more out of the bottom, give it some more depth. It's pretty thick down here, so I'm gonna keep whittling away and then hopefully start sanding. All right, I'm not pushing my luck anymore. Time for some sanding. Well, I'm going to pull this off of here and flip it around. I think I'm going to pull it off of here. Flip it around so I can clean up the bottom and get it finished out. Boy, this thing, I did not think that this was going to survive, let alone look this good. My little block here has shrunk quite a bit. It's all sorts of wobbly. I'm going to have to turn it real quick so that I can, well, let's see. Yeah, that'll work. Well, here we have it. Oh, wait a minute, not this one.